You find yourself amid the chaotic hum of a Roman marketplace, where merchants shout their wares and the scent of spices mingles with the dust kicked up by passing carts. It is a scorching day, the sun beating down mercilessly on the cobblestones. The crowd is a blend of citizens, slaves, soldiers, and traders, each absorbed in their own concerns, yet beneath the surface, tension coils like a serpent ready to strike. Here, in the midst of this cacophony, a boy stands out, not because of his status or wealth, but because of the fragility etched into his small frame and the haunted look in his dark eyes. He is no Roman-born child, but a foreign captive, torn from the safety of his homeland during a brutal raid that left his village in ruins. His skin bears the sun's kiss, his clothes are tattered remnants, and his feet are bare against the scorching stones. The innocence that once defined him has been shattered, replaced by a cautious silence that echoes the loss of everything he once knew. Around him, the marketplace thrums with life, but he is a ghost drifting through the noise, invisible yet utterly exposed. Captured by ruthless soldiers, the boy was thrust into a world where chains were freedom and submission was survival. The raid had been swift and merciless, men slaughtered, women screamed, and children like him were ripped away from their mothers' arms, herded like cattle into the unknown. The memories of that night linger in his mind like shadows, flames licking at wooden huts, the desperate cries of kin, the cold edge of steel against his skin. Now, in this foreign land, the boy's future is a blank canvas painted with uncertainty and fear. His hands tremble as he watches the traders barter and bargain, his eyes darting nervously toward the guards patrolling the square. The language around him is guttural and alien, each word a puzzle he cannot yet decipher. His heart pounds with the weight of captivity, the invisible shackles of a fate he did not choose. Yet, beneath the layers of despair, a flicker of something else remains, a fragile ember of hope, a will to endure. The marketplace is a stage where power and poverty collide. Roman citizens flaunt their wealth with fine tunics and polished sandals, while slaves like the boy huddle in the shadows, their worth measured in coins and labor. The air is thick with the clamor of haggling voices, the clink of bronze, and the occasional bark of a merchant demanding attention. Among the throng, the boy feels the sting of gazes, some curious, some dismissive, others calculating. Each look is a reminder of his place in this vast, indifferent empire. Amid the bustle, a figure steps forward, a Roman nobleman whose presence parts the crowd like a blade through silk. He is clad in a pristine toga, embroidered with purple that marks his rank and privilege. His eyes, sharp and discerning, scan the marketplace with the practiced gaze of a man accustomed to command. When they settle on the boy, something shifts in the air, subtle yet undeniable. The nobleman's interest is piqued, a silent acknowledgement that this child is no ordinary captive. This encounter is a turning point, though its significance is veiled in mystery. The nobleman approaches with measured steps, his expression unreadable. He pauses before the boy, whose breath catches in his throat, caught between hope and terror. The nobleman's fingers brush lightly against the boy's arm, a touch both possessive and assessing. It is a moment suspended in time, the first thread woven into a tapestry of fate that will bind the boy to the heart of Roman power. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Some speculate on the nobleman's intentions, others avert their eyes, unwilling to witness the unfolding drama. The boy senses the weight of this moment, the precarious balance between salvation and further suffering. His world, once a simple existence beneath open skies, is now collapsing into a maze of shadows and intrigue. The nobleman's voice breaks the silence, low and commanding, speaking words the boy does not yet understand. Yet the tone is clear, decisive, irrevocable. The boy is seized, not with the brutality of soldiers, but with the calculated grip of a man who sees beyond the surface. He is pulled from the marketplace, from the cacophony of life and death, into the unknown corridors of Roman power. As they move away, the boy catches a final glimpse of the marketplace, the faces, the stalls, the sunlit chaos, all fading into the background of a new reality. He is no longer merely a captive, he is becoming a possession, a pawn in a game far greater than himself. The air around him thickens with the scent of oil lamps and polished marble, a stark contrast to the earth and smoke of his former world. This first chapter in the boy's journey is a study in contrasts, between freedom and bondage, innocence and exploitation, despair and the faintest glimmer of hope. The Roman marketplace, with its noise and color, is the crucible where his fate is forged. His capture is not just the end of one life but the beginning of another, one that will test the limits of his spirit and reshape his identity in ways he cannot yet fathom. In this moment, the boy stands on the precipice of transformation. The path ahead is obscured by shadows and uncertainty, but it is marked by a singular truth: his existence is now intertwined with the will of men who wield power like a blade. The marketplace's echoes fade, replaced by the heavy silence of a destiny bound to imperial ambition. The boy's journey from innocence to survival has begun, and the world he once knew is forever lost beneath the weight of Roman chains. The boy's world shifted abruptly from the chaotic marketplace to the rigid confines of servitude, where every breath was measured and every movement scrutinized. His days blurred into a relentless procession of menial tasks, each designed to remind him of his place beneath the grand tapestry of Roman society. The once vibrant hopes that flickered in his eyes grew dim under the weight of chains both visible and unseen. Yet, beneath the harshness, a quiet resilience began to take root, a will to endure that defied the cruelty surrounding him. In the shadowed corners of the estate where he was first brought, the boy learned the language of survival. His hands, once soft from a life unburdened, grew calloused from scrubbing floors, carrying water, and tending to the needs of those who regarded him as little more than property. The overseer's lashes and sharp words carved fear into his spirit, but also forged a cunning intelligence. He observed patterns in the movements of his captors, learned the rhythms of the household, and discovered that knowledge could be as powerful as strength. Amid this bleak existence, small moments of humanity surfaced. A kind glance from a fellow slave, a whispered word of encouragement, or the rare stolen piece of bread became treasures that sustained him. His mind, sharp and curious, absorbed the lessons of this new world, its customs, its hierarchies, its endless complexities. Though the boy remained a prisoner, he was no longer simply broken, he was adapting, shaping himself to survive within the confines imposed upon him. It was during this time that the emperor's presence began to loom over the boy's life like a distant, ominous storm. The emperor was a man cloaked in contradictions, known for his caprices as much as his command, his desires as much as his decrees. Whispers throughout the city spoke of his obsession with rare and exotic possessions, treasures from the farthest reaches of the empire that fed his insatiable appetite for control and spectacle. His court was a theater of power where favor could elevate a slave to heights unimaginable, or condemn him to oblivion with a single glance. Fate, it seemed, had not forgotten the boy. One day, amidst the endless chores and subdued existence, a summons arrived, an invitation that would thrust him from the shadows of servitude into the dazzling, perilous light of imperial grandeur. The boy was to be brought before the emperor himself, an audience that filled him with a mixture of dread and tentative hope. The journey to the imperial household was a passage through layers of opulence that mocked the poverty he had known. The emperor's palace was a labyrinth of marble halls, frescoed ceilings, and gilded furnishings, where courtiers moved like specters in a dance of power and flattery. Servants in finely woven tunics bustled about, their faces masks of practiced neutrality. Here, the boy was acutely aware of his outsider status, a fragile piece in a game far beyond his understanding. The air was thick with the scent of incense and perfumed oil, a stark contrast to the earth and sweat of his former life. As he was presented to the emperor, the boy felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, curious, suspicious, hungry for spectacle. The emperor regarded him with a gaze that flickered between appraising interest and cold calculation. In that moment, the boy understood that he was no longer merely a slave, he was a curiosity, a possession whose value was measured by the whim of a man who ruled an empire with an iron fist and a mercurial heart. The tension in the room was palpable. The emperor's attendants moved with purpose, assessing the boy's appearance, his demeanor, his potential. The boy, though frightened, met their scrutiny with a quiet defiance, a determination to hold on to the fragments of his identity amid the forces threatening to erase him. The court was a crucible where survival depended on more than obedience. It required cunning, adaptability, and the ability to navigate the treacherous currents of favor and jealousy. In the days that followed, the boy's existence became a study in contrasts. He was at once elevated above the common slaves yet imprisoned within the invisible cage of imperial desire. His tasks shifted from menial labor to more refined duties, fetching rare spices, delivering messages, attending to the emperor's private chambers. Each role was a test, a performance in which the boy's worth was measured not by who he was, but by how well he served the emperor's caprices. The boy's senses were bombarded by the opulence surrounding him, the shimmering silks, the gleam of polished gold, the intoxicating aromas of exotic perfumes. Yet beneath this glittering surface lay a court rife with danger. Whispers of betrayal and intrigue echoed through the marble corridors. Courtiers vied for the emperor's favor, their smiles masking knives poised to strike. The boy sensed the precariousness of his position. He was both a prize and a target, a living token in a deadly game of power. Despite the peril, the boy's mind sharpened. He learned the subtle language of glances and gestures, the art of appearing both useful and unobtrusive. He observed the emperor's moods, a volatile blend of charm and cruelty, and adapted his behavior to survive the unpredictable tides of favor. Each day was a lesson in restraint and strategy, a delicate balance between visibility and invisibility. Yet, amidst the cold calculations, the boy glimpsed moments that transcended the harshness of his reality. The emperor, beneath the veneer of authority, revealed flashes of vulnerability, a rare smile, a fleeting touch, a whispered word, that hinted at a complex humanity. These moments were double-edged. They offered a fragile connection but also deepened the boy's entanglement in the emperor's capricious world. As the boy settled into the rhythms of the imperial household, he became acutely aware of the stakes. His survival depended not only on his ability to serve but on his capacity to read the shifting alliances and enmities that defined court life. Every favor granted was a thread in a web that could ensnare or elevate him. Every misstep could mean ruin. Through it all, the boy held on to the faintest hope that this new existence, despite its dangers and indignities, might offer a path beyond mere survival. The emperor's fascination with him was a cruel twist of fate, yet it also opened a door to a world of power and possibility forever closed to one born in chains. The boy was no longer simply a captive. He was becoming a player in the grand theater of empire, his fate entwined with the desires and whims of a ruler whose reach extended across continents. In this crucible of opulence and danger, the boy's journey continued, a fragile dance between servitude and ambition, between fear and courage. The emperor's household was both prison and stage, and the boy was learning to navigate its perilous currents, one cautious step at a time. Within the gilded walls of the imperial palace, the boy's transformation began in earnest, a metamorphosis orchestrated by unseen hands, driven by the emperor's insatiable desire for control and perfection. The palace attendants, skilled in the art of grooming and presentation, took the boy under their strict tutelage. Their hands were both gentle and unyielding, shaping his appearance as meticulously as a sculptor chisels marble, crafting not a person, but an image tailored to please the caprices of a man who saw beauty and utility as intertwined commodities. The boy's coarse hair was trimmed and styled with precision, his skin bathed in oils that imparted a subtle sheen under the flickering light of oil lamps. His clothes, once ragged and ill-fitting, were replaced by fabrics so fine they whispered against his skin, silks dyed in colors that spoke of wealth and status, garments embroidered with patterns that marked him as special, an object set apart from the common throng. Every detail was calculated to transform him from a mere slave into an emblem of imperial favor. But the transformation extended beyond the physical. The boy was taught manners and speech, coached to navigate the labyrinthine etiquette of the emperor's court. His every gesture was scrutinized, every word weighed for its appropriateness. He learned to mask fear with composure, to cloak vulnerability beneath a veneer of grace. The attendants drilled him in the art of pleasing, not merely through obedience, but through subtle flattery and an intuitive understanding of the emperor's ever-shifting moods. This grooming was a double-edged sword. With each refinement, the boy's identity fragmented, the lines between self and performance blurring until he struggled to distinguish his own desires from those imposed upon him. He became a living canvas, painted in hues dictated by others, his existence tethered to the emperor's fleeting whims. The loss of autonomy was profound, yet beneath the surface, a spark of agency flickered, an instinct to survive that adapted to the demands placed upon him. As the boy's appearance and demeanor evolved, so too did his role within the emperor's private world. He was no longer a background figure but an object of fascination and possession, a plaything whose presence soothed the emperor's restless spirit or sparked his capricious ire. The palace, with its labyrinth of marble and shadowed alcoves, became both stage and prison, where the boy was displayed and concealed in turn, his fate entwined with the emperor's mercurial desires. Life as the emperor's plaything was a precarious existence, balanced between moments of tender attention and sudden cruelty. The emperor's affection was as unpredictable as the Roman skies, one moment warm and shining, the next dark and stormy. The boy learned to read these shifts with acute sensitivity, adjusting his behavior to appease or elude. A smile might win favor, a misstep could invite punishment. The boundaries between companionship and ownership blurred, leaving the boy suspended in a liminal space where pleasure and pain intertwined. Isolation became a constant companion. Despite the throng of courtiers and attendants, the boy was profoundly alone. His value lay in his capacity to please, yet this very role severed him from genuine human connection. Friends were scarce, and trust rarer still. Behind the emperor's smiles lurked suspicion, and beneath the polished veneer of court life simmered a ruthless calculus that left little room for vulnerability. The emperor's obsessions shaped the boy's daily existence with relentless force. The ruler's desire for control extended beyond politics and conquest into the realm of personal possession. The boy was a living testament to this, a symbol of power wielded over flesh and spirit. The emperor's whims dictated his wardrobe, his movements, even the moments he was seen or hidden. At times, the boy was adorned and paraded before select guests, a trophy of imperial taste. At others, he was confined to shadow chambers, subjected to harsh reprimands or neglect. Yet, despite the volatility, the boy clung to the fragile threads of survival. He learned to anticipate the emperor's moods, to offer smiles when storms brewed, to retreat when tempests threatened. This delicate dance required constant vigilance and an acute awareness of the shifting tides of favor. The boy's intelligence and adaptability became his greatest assets, tools to navigate the treacherous waters of power and desire. Amid the turbulence, moments of unexpected tenderness emerged. In rare glimpses, the emperor's facade cracked, revealing a complexity beneath the surface, a loneliness, a longing, perhaps even a genuine affection that transcended possession. These instances, fleeting and fragile, offered the boy a glimpse of humanity within the monstrous machinery of imperial rule. They were moments to be treasured and feared, for they deepened the boy's entanglement in a relationship as dangerous as it was intimate. The boy's existence became a study in contrasts, elevated above the common slaves yet imprisoned by the emperor's whims, a companion yet a possession, visible yet profoundly isolated. Each day was a performance, each moment a negotiation between survival and identity. The boy grappled with the paradox of being both desired and discarded, cherished and controlled. In this crucible of power and vulnerability, the boy's identity continued to evolve. He was no longer the frightened child dragged from his homeland but a figure shaped by the relentless demands of imperial favor. Yet beneath the crafted exterior, the boy's spirit persisted, resilient, wary, and watchful, ever seeking a foothold in a world where his fate was bound to the unpredictable will of a man who ruled an empire with both charm and cruelty. The palace, with its glittering halls and shadowed corners, was a world apart, a place where the boy was both elevated and diminished, celebrated and silenced. His journey was now inseparable from the emperor's desires, a living testament to the complexities of power, possession, and survival. Here, in the heart of Rome's might, the boy's story unfolded, a fragile dance on the edge of light and darkness, where identity was both weapon and shield in the relentless pursuit of favor. Within the marble halls of the emperor's court, the boy's existence became a delicate thread woven into a tapestry of intrigue and jealousy, where every glance held the weight of unspoken schemes and every whispered word could seal a fate. The court was a living organism, pulsating with ambition and envy, its courtiers circling like vultures hungry for favor, ready to feast upon the missteps of those who dared to rise too close to the sun. Among them, the boy stood as a fragile figure, both prized and precarious, a symbol of the emperor's capricious power and a target for those who sought to undermine it. Jealousy simmered beneath the polished veneer of civility. Some courtiers regarded the boy with thinly veiled disdain, seeing in him an upstart intruder elevated beyond his station by the emperor's unpredictable whims. Others whispered of his origins, casting shadows on his worth and loyalty. These murmurs carried poison, spreading through the corridors like a silent contagion, eroding the boy's fragile security. Each smile he offered was met with suspicion, each favor granted to him a spark igniting conspiracies in hidden chambers. The boy, keenly aware of the dangers that lurked behind every smile and gesture, honed his instincts like a blade. He learned to navigate the treacherous currents of court politics with increasing cunning, masking his fears beneath a calm exterior. Every interaction became a calculated move in a game where missteps meant ruin. He observed alliances forming and fracturing, watched as courtiers jockeyed for influence over the emperor's volatile moods, and understood that survival depended on more than obedience. It demanded subtlety, strategy, and resilience. Amid this web of intrigue, the emperor's own decline cast a long shadow over the court. The man who once commanded with iron will and magnetic presence began to falter, his health waning, his mind clouded by paranoia and dread. The sharpness that had once defined him dulled, replaced by fits of rage and moments of unsettling silence. This deterioration rippled through the palace, unsettling the delicate balance of power and casting the boy's future into uncertainty. The emperor's moods grew more erratic, his affections shifting unpredictably. The boy found himself caught in the crosscurrents of a ruler's unraveling psyche, sometimes cherished as a favored companion, other times dismissed or punished for imagined slights. The once clear rules of their relationship blurred into confusion, leaving the boy to navigate a landscape as unstable as the emperor's mind. His survival hinged on his ability to anticipate the next storm, to adapt swiftly to the shifting tides of favor and fury. Yet, within this tempest, moments of humanity pierced the darkness. The boy glimpsed the emperor's vulnerability, a fleeting softness in his gaze, a rare confession whispered in the privacy of shadowed chambers. These instances revealed a complexity beneath the emperor's imposing facade, a man burdened by his own fears and desires. They were brief reprieves from the cruelty of court life, moments where connection transcended power, however fragile and transient. These fragile bonds, however, were fraught with risk. To be seen as too close to the emperor invited envy and suspicion, to be distant invited neglect or worse. The boy walked a narrow path, balancing the need for protection against the dangers of exposure. Each moment of intimacy deepened his entanglement in the emperor's world, binding him tighter to a fate shaped by forces beyond his control. The boy's awareness of his own vulnerability sharpened. He understood that he was not merely a plaything but a pawn in a larger game, a symbol wielded to assert dominance, shield against rivals, and a scapegoat when fortunes declined. His identity, once his own, was now a reflection of the emperor's desires and fears, shaped and reshaped by the volatile currents of power. Throughout the palace, alliances shifted like sand. Courtiers who had once smiled with false warmth now cast cold eyes, former protectors became adversaries. The boy learned to read these changes with wary precision, recognizing the subtle signs of impending betrayal. Trust was a luxury he could ill afford, and friendships were often masks for ulterior motives. In this crucible of power and peril, the boy's survival depended on a delicate balance of strength and submission, visibility and concealment. He became adept at playing the role expected of him, while nurturing a quiet inner resolve to endure beyond the palace walls. His intelligence and adaptability grew sharper, honed by necessity into tools of survival. The court was a place of contradictions, where cruelty and kindness coexisted in uneasy tension, where power could uplift or destroy in equal measure. The boy, caught at its center, embodied these contradictions, a living testament to the fragile humanity that persisted amidst the machinery of empire. His journey was one of constant vigilance, a dance on the edge of danger where every step carried the weight of life and death. As the emperor's health declined, the boy sensed the shifting tides of fortune. The stability he had once sought within the palace walls now seemed elusive, replaced by a growing sense of uncertainty. The court's intrigue deepened, and the boy's place within it became increasingly precarious. Yet, even in the face of these challenges, he remained watchful and determined, his spirit tempered by the trials he had endured. In this world of shadows and light, the boy's story unfolded, a narrative of power and vulnerability, of survival amid chaos. The court was both crucible and cage, and the boy moved within it with cautious grace, ever aware that his fate hung in the balance. The palace that had once seemed an impenetrable fortress of power and favor began to crumble beneath the weight of political upheaval and the emperor's fading influence. The boy, once a prized possession basking in fleeting moments of imperial attention, now found himself adrift in a world unraveling around him. The grand halls echoed not with laughter and intrigue but with whispers of rebellion and the clatter of soldiers preparing for change. The emperor's downfall was imminent, and with it, the fragile sanctuary the boy had known was shattered. As the emperor's support eroded, courtiers fled like rats from a sinking ship. Allies turned their backs, and the once celebrated Plaything became a symbol of a regime no longer secure. The boy's position, tied inexorably to the emperor's favor, collapsed alongside the man who had claimed him. The palace's opulence, once a gilded cage, now felt like a trap tightening around his neck, suffocating and inescapable. In the chaos of the emperor's final days, the boy faced the terrifying prospect of survival without protection. The world beyond the palace walls was a harsh and unforgiving place, especially for one marked by association with a fallen ruler. Enemies lurked in every shadow, and the boy's very existence threatened those who sought to erase the old regime's remnants. Escape was not merely a desire, it was a necessity. Seizing a fleeting opportunity amid the disorder, the boy fled the palace under cover of darkness. The city, once alive with the pomp of imperial spectacle, now lay fractured and uncertain. Streets that had echoed with the footsteps of courtiers now teemed with soldiers, rebels, and displaced citizens. The boy navigated this new reality with a mixture of fear and resolve, each step a testament to his will to survive. Freed from the confines of servitude yet shackled by vulnerability, the boy confronted the brutal truths of freedom. Without the emperor's protection, he was exposed to the dangers of a society that prized strength and lineage above all else. His past as a slave and plaything marked him as an outsider, a target for exploitation and violence. The fragile identity he had cultivated within the palace now had to withstand the harshness of the world beyond. Yet, amidst the peril, the boy's resilience shone. He relied on the cunning and adaptability honed through years of navigating the treacherous imperial court. Each encounter tested his instincts, whether bargaining for food, evading hostile eyes, or seeking shelter in unfamiliar quarters. The lessons of servitude and favor had forged a survivor, one who understood that endurance required both vigilance and courage. The boy's journey through the city's labyrinthine streets became a passage from innocence to experience, from possession to autonomy. The freedom he sought was fraught with hardship, but it was his own, a reclamation of self beyond the emperor's shadow. Each day was a struggle, each night a battle against despair, yet he pressed forward, driven by a deep-seated hope that life could be more than survival. In moments of solitude, the boy reflected on the path that had brought him here, the brutal raid that tore him from his homeland, the years of servitude, the fleeting moments of imperial favor, and the collapse of the world he had known. His story was etched with loss and hardship, yet also with a fierce determination to endure. He carried within him the scars of a past that refused to be forgotten and the fragile promise of a future yet unwritten. The boy's legacy was one of endurance amid exploitation, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to adapt and survive. His journey from captive to imperial plaything and then to a fledgling freedom was a microcosm of the empire itself, marked by grandeur and cruelty, power and vulnerability. In his survival, he embodied the complex realities underlying the empire's shining facade. As he disappeared into the city's shadows, the boy's story became a silent echo of the costs borne by those caught in the tides of history. His life was a reminder that behind the splendor of empire lay countless lives shaped by violence and resilience, each one a thread in the vast, turbulent fabric of Rome. The boy's journey was far from over, but his footsteps marked a path forged in endurance and the unyielding hope for a life reclaimed.